Hi, welcome back. Most of you have subscribed, I see, because you're enjoying this conversation. I love it. So please, if you're new here, please subscribe, leave a comment, and let's have fun together. Let's grow, let's learn. I don't see why you can't learn. Come on, we're bringing this to you free of charge. So please subscribe and leave a comment. And if you've been with us for a while, thank you so much. This week, we're having a conversation about something very pertinent. And my guest is still the beautiful Mercy Munduru. So let's get started. Mercy,
yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you for always being there for me.
I'm honored to be here, of course.
I do appreciate it.
I have to be here.
Last week we had a very heated conversation around marriages, trying to make sure people learn what this whole marriage thing is about before you take your step getting in. Now you have gotten in there. No, not actually gotten in there. As if it's marriage. You met this man. You love him, he loves you. You know what? Let's live together. So you start your cohabitation journey. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 for some down the road. Is cohabitation a form of marriage? It's a weird question.
It's a very weird question.
Is cohabitation a form of marriage?
No, unfortunately not. Cohabitation is not a form of marriage because when we talked about the forms of marriage, you realize that there are certain legalities involved. There are certain aspects that you have to consider before something is called a marriage. So cohabitation purely is just two people in love, living together, doing things married people do, but without necessarily legalizing such a relationship, whether through the Christian marriage, civil marriage, customary marriage, Islamic marriage, or Hindu marriage. So as long as it doesn't fall there, you're just two people in love living together and doing what married people do.
But Mercy, we have had children. We have 3 of them. We've been living together for 15 years. Why am I not being recognized?
It doesn't matter. Like I said, you're just two people in love living together and having children, but you're not husband and wife.
Is that fair?
What makes it a marriage is really the legality, its registration with the government of Uganda. All the types of marriages that we spoke about in the last episode are registered with the government of Uganda. So you can go anywhere and retrieve your name in the registry of people that are recognized as having been legally married. But you see, with cohabitation, you're simply living together. You're having children, yes. People may even call you husband and wife, Mchalagundi. But there's no marriage, so you don't have. So in
other words, just put that clear out there. Being with a man, sleeping with a man, having 4 children together when you're not legally married, you're not protected. The privileges that happen with a married person, they don't apply here.
No, they don't. They don't. There are particular privileges that accrue to a person that is legally married. So, for example, if such a relationship goes sour, there are certain entitlements within the law for you as a woman who is legally married and a man who is legally married. The law gives guidelines in terms of how this marriage is dissolved, in terms of the rights that accrue out of such a dissolution. For example, when you live together for a long time, you have children, perhaps you amass property together, and you have several ventures together. So if such a marriage dissolves, and you're married legally, there are guidelines in terms of how such property is going to be handled.
In this case, I'm cohabiting.
In this case, you're cohabiting.
I've gotten property with this man. What happens after that?
You have no rights unless the properties were registered in both your names, because Adele, I'm your friend. We can purchase property together as friends, and if we cease to be friends, then we can
it is documented somewhere,
and say that, you know what, this property has my name and Adelle's name, and we are no longer friends, we want to separate, so we want to do ABCD. But if that is not there, which most cases is not, then you have no entitlement. How are you entitled to someone's property? Is it in your names? Are you married to them? So there's really nothing in it for you.
Quick takeout out of this. If you're cohabiting and you're amassing property with a person that you're living with, please put your name on the paper. Quickly.
That's a good tip.
Quickly, put your name on the paper.
That's a good tip.
Let's talk about the most important part. The children born in cohabitation. How are they protected?
Children really retain their rights as children. Of course, unless somebody denies paternity or being the mother of such children, in which case, of course, you can do a DNA test. As long as it's proved that those are your children, they're entitled to the rights that accrue to children, just like in a legal marriage. But I must also mention that recently, in a couple of years ago, in the case of Haji Chigongo, courts progressively made a decision in a one-of-a-kind court case, where this couple has lived together for over 40 years, and at the point at which the marriage was falling apart, the man said that he didn't marry her, and so there had to be a lot of back and forth between the lawyers to prove that there was actually a marriage. But because they had been together for a long time, court in its wisdom reasoned that because they carried themselves as people who were married, and in fact there are certain actions they undertook which proved that they were in some form of marriage, that despite all the other issues around this dissolution, the woman was entitled to some of the property. So that is precedence that the court set that can be used that can be admitted at the discretion of court.
But
it's
that's
not
at the
law
discretion
per se,
of court.
at the discretion
It's not
of
under
court.
the law.
It's just a precedence that is there. That there's one case that was decided like that. So sometimes lawyers use that. Sometimes it's successful.
Sometimes it's not.
What would have been very effective is if we actually have a law like it is in other countries that particularly regulates,
speaks to it.
Issues around property, not recognizing cohabitation as a form of marriage, but certain rights that accrue. For example, property rights, which are very instrumental because of the manner in which this relationship manifests, which is similar to a marriage, but it's just not within the conduits of legal marriages.
I think very soon we'll be talking about property as well. How do you need to do the due diligence, the acquisition, but also the rights that each partner needs to get in that whole setup. Now, finally, as we finish, there was a bill in Parliament around this, and so many women were coming up saying, if I've been married for 15 years, I should be protected. There was a provision. Please take us through that.
So we have the Marriage and Divorce Bill, which has been in Parliament over 15 years. And it's one of those bills that comes and goes. This time it went up to the President to assent, but it was still brought back to Parliament, so it has never been passed. So part of what was within this law was really what we're talking about, around cohabitation. The fact that indeed there are women who have gone into relationships where they're living with men for years. They've invested so much in terms of property, in terms of time, in terms of emotions, and therefore at the point of dissolution, it would be unjust and unfair for such women or men to leave these marriages without anything, despite the fact that they may contribute. And by the way, when the law speaks about contribution, even for legally married people, contribution is not just putting money, but also your emotions and the time you put in this relationship. The emotions we put in these things is too much. The time. Money cannot buy it.
Thank you very much.
So, so this bill came to the floor of Parliament, and I remember that the Parliament decided to give 5 million shillings to MPs to go and consult their constituents and come back and report to Parliament about, it was very controversial, especially the part of property. And it's very unfortunate that our legislators didn't think that this was very important. Having worked in legal aid before, and women coming to you in helpless situations, and you cannot help them because there is no law, it was really unfortunate for me to witness as this law was being tossed from one corner to another. So this bill did not pass. part of the proposals within this bill, among many others, first of all, why we had this bill is because our marriage laws are old.
Yeah,
the Marriage Act, for example, was enacted in 1904.
Very
How
archaic.
long ago was that?
Very archaic. We need some
Do you
reforms.
understand? So much has changed over the years. And we have a marriage and divorce law. And so what this bill was doing was to put this together, but also ensure that we revise some of the...
Move with the trends
exactly,
of the current situation.
Certain issues captured within those laws have been overtaken by events.
Very
so
true.
that was part of what the law intended to cure, but also putting the marriage laws in one. And of course, our religious leaders were, you know, they pushed back and said you cannot have a marriage and divorce bill.
Yes.
Sarcastically, yet we have a marriage law and a divorce law as is.
Independently
right now. So basically, that being the issue, the bill did not pass, and it's very unfortunate. So as is, women and men in cohabiting relationships are not secure, and they're not protected under the law, and that's very unfortunate.
Wow. It's sad, but we need to finish this conversation. What would you tell that person who's in this, who's cohabiting? I even call it marriages sometimes because you meet people who have lived together for so long and you think they're married, yet they are not. There's nothing to protect them. What would they be able to do right now that you're already there? What should someone do?
One is, if they love you, they should legalize it. Hello?
Put a ring on
it. That would be the first and very core recommendation.
Yes.
Because you can't tell me somebody loves you so much that they want to live with you for 40 years and have 10 children with you without marrying you. I mean, that is unfortunate, because look at it like this. It's not just about the marriage. If one of you drops dead tomorrow, how do you secure the rights of the people you've left behind?
Difficult.
If there's nothing legal between the two of you. So it's not just about whether or not people break up. It could be death. And this is why actually the marriage and divorce bill was crucial, because we recognize that marriages can be dissolved for different reasons.
Yes.
It could be death that separates the two of you, no matter how much you loved one another, and now your spouse has to face the reality of life. So then what happens if they don't have safeguards? So that would be one thing, that you should legalize your relationship. If you've been with somebody, you're performing the duties of married people when you're not legally married within the conduits of the law, as we spoke about in the last episode. Make sure that you legalize your relationship or your union. Outside of that, if you choose, which is again what the law allows us to do, to be in a relationship with somebody and have children with them, then ensure that you have documentation for every transaction, that you are aware of things happening in this marriage or relationship. For example, property, make conscious decisions to ensure that you document, so that there are rights that accrue. Even if you buy something, just make sure that you know
has
your
some
name
paper
is
track.
there, or it has, so just have your paper trail, because this is now like a business transaction.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's a business
like a
transaction.
business transaction.
Win-win situation.
Precisely.
Kind of thing.
We're in this, but anything could happen. I have no security. So now that's why when you go to take a loan, they tell you put security somewhere. So what you're going to do is sort of like a security for yourself, for your children. So just make sure that you safeguard those rights, aware that there is no protection for cohabitation in our Ugandan laws as is.
If you're cohabiting, this conversation is important. Put your name on the paper. Document everything you do, because as is right now, there's nothing to protect you. And it would be very sad to have been with this partner for 15 years, for 10 years, and you lose everything. When you've put in your time, you've put in your emotions, it is very unfortunate. Please, take this conversation seriously. Share to as many people as you can. If you're cohabiting, put your name on the paper. In the meantime, come to Inyamat Gardens and enjoy a cup of tea, because this place is beautiful. Subscribe, like the pages, and we'll come back next week with something more interesting. Do you know about divorce? Bye.